Okay, Project PB, let's do this. Hi there, John, Brampton runner here, and welcome to my new video series for the month of September, and it's called Project PB. Now what this is going to be is it's going to be me documenting my training over the month, going forward looking at the Windsor Half Marathon at the end of the month. We're hoping that I may be able to get a PB. Okay, so a bit of background on this is, last year I did the Bedford Half Marathon at the start of September, and I came out at a time of 2 hours and 18 minutes. I then did a month of normal MAF training over the month of September. I'm going into the Windsor Half Marathon at the end of the month. I was expecting to do okay. I wasn't really expecting to get a PB like I did. I've got a half marathon PB of 4 minutes, and there's also a PB on the Windsor Half Marathon course of 16 minutes. So yeah, I was pretty surprised and pleased with that. And I thought this year, why not see if I could do it again? I thought if I do exactly the same training runs, it'd be an interesting experiment to see how I get on, compare my runs through the month, and at the end of the month we'll see whether it does actually result in a PB or not. And if nothing else, it would be an interesting experience to go through and see how I get on. Okay, so the plan is that this year in September I'll do all the same training I did last year in September at the same locations, and I may also squeeze an extra training run in here or there. The reason for this is because this time I started at a slight disadvantage to where I was last year, because my Bedford Half Marathon time this year was 3 minutes slower. This could have been for a few reasons, maybe because of the summer holidays in August restricted my training a little bit, and it could also be because this year at Bedford Half Marathon we were stopping for water in cups, because I can't run and drink at the same time, so that may slow me down a bit. So it's probably important that I mention here that my training method of choice is the MAF Method. And if you don't know what it is, I've done a few videos on it, and I'll link to them above if you want to check them out. But in a nutshell, it's basically heart rate training that's done by 180 minus your age, and you do all your runs at that heart rate or below. And over time, hopefully, you get faster at that heart rate and faster overall. Okay, so other things to mention at this point are diet. Now, I generally go by a low carb diet, which kind of fits into the whole MAF way of training, with the MAF method. And I did that last year, and I'll be doing that again this year, because that's the diet I follow most of the time. When it comes to race week, I normally add a few extra carbs in, so I've got a bit of a sort of a train low, race high mentality, which I do normally for races, and I'll be doing that again this year, so that'll be the same as well. And yeah, following on from diet, I'll also be keeping a track on my weight over the month. I'll do anyway each week, so you'll see what that is, compared to last September. So you'll be doing the same training runs, we'll be doing the same diet, and be keeping an eye on the weight as well. Okay, so this video is documenting the first week of Project PB, but as I speak to you now, it's actually the start of the second week of Project PB, because last week after the Bedford Half Marathon, I kind of thought to myself, yeah, I'm going to do this experiment, and as the week drew on, I thought, why not film it for my YouTube channel? So here we are filming it for the YouTube channel. So after a few days off after the Bedford Half Marathon, I returned to training on the Thursday and Friday last week, and on Thursday I went to Fine Shade Woods in East Northamptonshire and did a run round there, and on Friday I went to Brampton Valley Way and did one of my regular routes down there. And obviously these are both the same runs that I did on the 1st of September last year. So let's have a look at the stats, see how I got on. Okay, so here are the two runs from Fine Shade Woods, and the one on the left is from 2018 and one on the right is from 2019. I thought for these runs I compare three main things: the distance covered, the average pace and the average heart rate. And so for these runs, pretty similar to be honest. The distance is almost exactly the same, 6.01 and 6.02 miles. The average heart rate is 134, exactly the same. And the average pace, slightly slower in 2018 than this year, but marginal really. Okay, now moving on to the mile splits. Now generally with the MAF method, you find that your first mile is your fastest and the last mile is slowest. And you get generally slower as you progress in your run. And the reason for this is because you're staying at a specific heart rate and your heart gets more tired, and therefore you get slower as you go along. However, this isn't always the case, and if it's on a hilly route like this one is, because Fine Shade is quite a hilly wood, you find that the pace can go up and down as the run progresses. As you can see here, the second mile on both runs is the slowest, but generally after that is a downward trend to get slower as the run progresses. And on
2019 is when you may notice that the maximum heart rate on this one is higher than 2018. This may be a problem with my heart rate monitor. I'm not exactly sure yet. Spoiler for week 2, I've been having some issues at the start of this week, so I'll have to wait and see how that goes. But generally, yeah, both these runs are pretty much the same. Okay, so now I move on to Friday's run, which is down Brampton Valley Way. And if you look at the distance covered, you can see the difference already. In 2018 I did 5.2 miles, whereas this year I only managed 5.07. And that's also reflected in the average pace, which is almost 20 seconds slower this year than it was last year. However, the average heart rate though is a little bit lower this year. That is because when my heart rate monitor doesn't play up, I'm trying to be more strict with my heart rate. So yeah, I've successfully managed to keep it down a little bit lower there on that run. And as we move on to look at the mile splits for this run, as you can see, it is a general downward trend from the first mile to the last, as you would expect with the MAF method.
So as the stats on the first week of Project PB, I want to take away from them is that basically I'm a little bit behind from where I was this time last year. That's not totally unexpected with my Bedford Half Marathon time, being 3 minutes slower than last year. But I've still got time to catch up. I've got the rest of September. You just have to see how it goes really. Now week 2 of Project PB, I've got 3 runs planned. And obviously they'll be the same 3 runs that I did on week 2 of September last year. And if I've got time, I may try and squeeze in another run. It just depends how the week progresses. So anyway, if you like this video, please give it a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you're not already subscribed for regular running related content. And why not share it with your friends. If you want to check me out on social media, I'm most active on Instagram these days. I'll put the link for that in the description below. And I'm also on Facebook and Twitter if you want to check me out there. That's it for now, so I'll catch you next time. Okay, bye now.